Okay. Hello, hello, good people. Welcome to the weekly meditation. My name's Mike Sattel, Buddhist meditation teacher. Each week, uploading some videos here where we can sit together, have some guided instruction, get into a little bit of theory, maybe even a little bit of Buddhist psychology. This week, what we're going to be sitting with is cultivating the jhanic factors. For those of you who may not be familiar with the term, the jhanas, jhanas are associated with deep states of meditative absorption. It's cultivating concentration in a way that it really takes off in our meditation. It deepens our states of concentration. The mind becomes increasingly stabilized and clarified. Clarified of what? Clarified of the hindrances, classical hindrances of craving, aversion, unconsciousness, restlessness, and doubt. In Buddhist parlance, the hindrances are usually ever present to some degree, and they tend to obscure a clear seeing. So part of the jhanas is a way of really purifying the mind in that respect, because, well, as we start to increase our or work to increase our concentration, we can become a lot more clear about the hindrances that do arise, and ideally be able to see them for what they are and relate to them in a way where we can equanimize them. Or how should we say, sometimes I hear people talk about getting rid of them, getting rid of the hindrances, which is somewhat, to me, implies a hindrance in and of itself. To get rid of something, I don't like it, let me get it out of here. That in and of itself is a aversion, it sounds to me. So when we come across a hindrance, to be able to discern it clearly, recognize it for what it is, and be able to bring the sense of equanimity, acceptance, allowance of it, that tends to, how should we say, equanimize it, or allow that sensory event to just burn out its own battery so that it becomes neutralized on its own. We can become adept at this, or good enough at it, really, in terms of being able to recognize them and relate to them in a way where we're creating the conditions for their own cessation. The more that we can quantize the hindrances, concentration tends to take hold in the Buddhist view. Concentration is a natural state of mind when it is able to come to rest, when it's not being buoyed up by frothing, turbulent hindrances. The mind just comes to rest. And I like that metaphor for getting into concentration. So it's rather than it being effortful, rather than it being, how shall we say, binding our attention in a way that feels unpleasant. It's about allowing the mind to come to a real deep state of rest. So, jhanas, deep states of meditative absorption, purifying the hindrances. When I talk about the title here, Cultivating Jhanic Factors, the jhanas, there are 8 or 9, depending on who you talk to, jhanas. The first ones are the rupa jhanas, or bodily jhanas, and then the next 4 are arupas, arupa jhanas, or non-bodily, and then the 5th one being cessation. Jhanic factors, we have Piti, Sukha, Vitakka, Vicara, Ekaggata. So Piti being a sense of, sometimes translated as joy, sometimes it's translated as energy. Can be an effervescent expression of energy in the body. Sometimes it's scintillating, sometimes effervescent, sometimes pins and needles. It can have a range of expressions. It can sometimes happen locally. Sometimes people report it initiating in their hands, sometimes in various extremities. It can happen anywhere in the body initially, and then eventually tends to spread globally, then full body experience of this joyful quality. Sometimes, again, energy, sometimes more joy. Another factor, Sukha, or sometimes translated as happiness. To me, it seems more like a contentment. Yeah, it's like the Piti is more of like the excitement and the thrill, yeah, of an intensity of experience, and then the Sukha is more the being able to take in that which is pleasant about it in a way that brings some satisfaction, some degree of contentment. So that's a way that it makes sense in my experience. Vitakka Vichara, that as well is two terms, and they're translated variously. I like applied attention and sustained attention. Yeah. So I'm taking my attention, I'm putting it on the breath. That's that sense. That's the vitakka. That's the applying it. Yeah. Where I'm applying, I'm directing my focus to a particular area. Of course, it goes off. You can grab it again and apply it. So that's the vitakka component. Vichara, sustained attention. So I'm really intentionally trying to keep it there for a duration of time. Yeah, so Piti Sukha, Vitakka Vichara, Ekaggata, sometimes translated as single point focus. Within the Visuddhimagga, sometimes it's the metaphor is used as though the lid and the base of the box fuse together as one. That sense of I'm observing that over there. There's a sense of me paying attention to the breath, and there's this fusing of it. Yeah. So there's that expression that's very Visuddhimagga-esque, single point focus. There's also another one that I find to be more of kind of the peripheral expression of it that seems to be a balancing and coordinating of the senses, a balancing and coordinating of mind. There tends to be a simplification, a simplifying that happens within experience. For those of us who've been meditating for a while, we've come across these states where it's just like suddenly like the volume is turned down or the intensity is turned down and things just become very quiet and simple, and somehow the inner static seems to be removed. So there's that quality of Ekaggata there as well. Either way, let's just get into it. So today, of course, the goal, the expectation is not for everybody to fall into incredibly deep states of absorption, but really it's just about cultivating a palate to notice these mental factors. So again, mental factors, Abhidhamma, Buddhist psychology. It's the metaphor I like is just as the chef tastes the soup and is able to discern the ingredients within, can we experience our own mind and discern what the various ingredients are that are influencing the mind? So in this way, the mental factors, the various ingredients. So we can look at those factors of, okay, to what degree is there applied attention, sustained attention? How much energetic effervescence is happening here of piti? To what degree is there's an expression of a deriving of satisfaction or enjoyment of that, the sukha? And to what degree is there's this honing in single point attention and balancing, coordinating of experience? Yeah. So there is a little bit of that reflection and assessment that does take place as well. So that's what today's about. A little bit more about just sitting and looking around, noticing if these qualities are present to one degree or another. Okay. So allowing yourself to get to a comfortable upright position. Straightening up and settling in. Getting in touch with the breath. Traditionally, in early Buddhism, they talk about bringing the attention to that frenum, that middle area, just outside up underneath the nose, and keeping your attention there, that narrow focus. You can if you wish. But for today, let's try to be aware of this whole posture and the breath within it. In the spirit of today, just being very upright and still. And noticing how the breath helps to buoy up the posture, like the wind filling the sails, giving the sails form, purpose, and direction. The breath filling this posture. And the breath bringing awareness to various tensions that we can rest, relax, ease. The more still we become, the more we can be aware of the subtleties, which as well can we bring a sense of softening around. And can we increase this discernment of the breath? Can we be aware of the in-breath, the top of the in-breath, the out-breath, the base of the out-breath? Inhaling in, naturally, not forcing it or altering, augmenting the breath in any way. Just allowing it to be natural. And just being present with that full inhale. Being present with that pause at the top of the inhale before we exhale. Being present with that exhale. Being present with that pause at that base of the out breath. Good. In spirit of openness, curiosity, can we discern the beginning, the middle, and the end of each of those phases of breath? The inhale has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The pause naturally occurring at the top has a beginning, middle, end. The exhale has a beginning, middle, end, as well as the pause at the base there before we inhale again. Can you discern that? Be with that. So as we're doing this, can we reflect back on the Vitakka Vichara qualities? Every time that we are intentionally placing our attention on a facet of our experience, as that Vitakka quality is present. Once that initial, how shall we say, novelty of the sensory experience wears off, our attention may want to go to something else, but that intention to still maintain contact, for example, with the breath in this fashion, that is the vichara, the sustained application of attention. Another side mental factor that's being cultivated in this virya, a sense of a determination energy. That determination, that perseverance quality, considered a very wholesome mental factor, and acts as an aid, a support, an ally to this overall focus. Now, then traditionally, we can just hang out like this with this for quite some time before other things emerge. But for the sake of today, can we begin to open up towards other factors? So there's the mechanical entering and exiting air from the body and how that interacts with the body. And can you attune your experience to any pleasant feel tones associated with this? And tuning to the breath in this fashion, the beginning, middle, end of each of the phases, or to whatever degree that breath feels appropriate in its contact. What are the pleasant qualities you notice? They may shift and change depending on what phase of the breath you're at. And of course, it may be quite subtle, but attune to that. Like listening to a quiet conversation in a crowded, noisy room. Just really lean into attuning to the subtle, pleasant aspect of this. As you notice it, just can give yourself permission to feel that more, to allow that in to permeate your being. Like water soaking into sand or the tea permeating out into the hot water. As those pleasant feel tones arise, allow that to just permeate your being. That acceptance, that allowance, equanimity quality helps. Whatever you notice, allow that in. Of course, the appreciation quality as well helps. And here's the thing, it can be pleasant, but try not to have any craving for it. As to whatever degree the hindrance of craving is present, it tends to shut down the whole show. So, yeah, we can be accepting and allowing, and we can appreciate, but we're not craving after anything. If there's anything active, it's the Vitakka Vichara, the leaning into the applied and sustained attention, attuning to the pleasant aspects of breath, or any pleasant flavors that arise from an increasing concentration. And a byproduct of that is an increased pleasant abiding in this body. Yeah, then attuning to the pleasant energy in the body. So, looking at the qualities of Piti, again, sometimes translated as joy, and sometimes it's a little bit more of a physical, somatic, buzzy, effervescent, energetic quality. So, again, another level of attuning to the subtlety of experience. To whatever degree it's there, just leave yourself open to the possibility if it's not. Not craving after it, accepting what is. But should it arise, notice, appreciate, allow. To whatever degree it wants to expand, move, spread, allow it. Allow it to get as large as it wants. And if it doesn't want to, we don't force nothing. And so shifting from that. I mean, that is one of the main signatures of the first jhana is that Piti expression. So we're turning on the stove. When we turn it on, we turn on the flame fully. So there's a larger flame on the stove. That is the Piti. The rest of the bodily jhanas is about slowly turning that flame down. So it's less of a roiling boil and more of a very, very stable, subtle simmer. So if the Piti is not full flame today, that's perfectly okay. In time. But let's turn our attention more towards the Sukha. Giving yourself permission to enjoy whatever is pleasant. So we were doing a little bit of that before, but now it's about more deliberately assessing whatever is pleasant about the breath, about the stillness, about flavors of concentration, whatever subtly pleasant feel tone that's arising. That allowing it to permeate, giving yourself permission to enjoy that. It's more the appreciative joy quality of metta can also be present to help, aid, support, be an ally in this expression of taking in the Sukha. Again, giving yourself permission to appreciate that sense of contentment, satisfaction that can arise from being simple, still, quietly abiding. And you turn your attention towards that quality, the Ekaggata, the single point focus, in some translations, that quality of we don't necessarily need to apply our attention anymore. It's just there. The attention is just resting on the object, be it breath, be it the Sukha, be it the stillness. There's a sense of stability in that. And as well, it's a pleasant flavor that can also be enjoyed. There can be Sukha in the Ekaggata, an enjoyment of the stable focus. So that is the narrow focus component of Ekaggata. But there's also the balancing and coordinating of mind component of Ekaggata. Can we notice an overall simplicity of experience? A lack of efforting, a lack of, or a diminishing of static. Just this clarity and simplification. Where the mind and attention and awareness all seems to be balanced, coordinated. In the same way that gravity balances and coordinates all the objects on the surface of the planet into place. The way that same gravity, that gravitational pull balances and coordinates the movement of the planets. There's a balancing and coordination of abiding in the sensory experience. The flavor of Ekaggata. And again, to help, to assist, to be an ally, that quality of equanimity, that accepting, that allowing, the yielding to. So as we progress, the meditation is less of efforting and more of grace. We are cultivating the conditions for jhanic forces to arise, jhanic factors to arise, and we just yield. Accept, allow, and yield, and be pulled into that equanimity quality, that deep acceptance and allowing is in service. And the equanimity just like the appreciation or metta flavors, or those qualities that come from the Brahma Viharas, the cultivating of altruistic states of mind and heart. So they kind of weave throughout, interplay with the jhanas. So that equanimity is a factor in the Brahma Vihara practice as well as within the jhana practice. Equanimity with Ekaggata. So part of this practice is about cultivating a pleasant abiding. And the abiding is just continuing, cruising along. So we can assess to what degree is there the applied and sustained thought or attention. After a while, they're less necessary, so they may fall off. To what degree is there the presence of the Piti, that energy, the joy, or is that simmered down into a Sukha, an appreciative happiness, a contentment, satisfaction? And to what degree has that helped to hone attention so that the mind rests on the object? The mind rests just in its experience. In this way, that's balanced, coordinated, flowing, smooth. As always, just whatever is pleasant about the experience, just allow yourself to take that in, the equanimity, the appreciative joy of, which creates another moment of pleasant that we give ourselves permission to appreciate, have equanimity, acceptance with, which creates another moment of pleasant, this cultivating of this positive feedback loop. And we abide. keep on cruising along. Okay, at ease. So we just explored cultivating a palate, noticing certain qualities of mind. We applied attention, the sustained attention, cultivating a joyful, pleasant energy, giving yourself permission to enjoy that, take in that sukha, that happiness, the appreciative contentment, and noticing the balanced, coordinated, focused mind, and how all those factors work together to support each other. And of course, there can be John, other overall mental factors, wholesome mental factors there that can um, be in support and ally to. But I just want to give a note. A lot of the verbiage that I use and a lot of what I'm citing, referencing, comes from the early Buddhist thought, the more of the Theravada Buddhist thought. And if you've been around these paths for a while, you might notice some things that I've noticed that within a lot of the mindfulness centers that are around that tend to have their roots in Theravada, I've noticed a pattern of really deplatforming, devaluing concentration and concentration practices. There is an upholding of mindfulness and mindfulness practices, which are great and wonderful. And if people practice with duration and go on retreats, then of course concentration begins to come in. But I've heard in discussions in various locations that all um, have a theme of Buddha said that the concentration practices were not the way, which I think is false. Um, concentration jhana practices predated Buddha. Metta Brahmavihara heart practices predated Buddha. He took in those practices which were around, and he worked them into the system that he developed. The practice that he developed that made it unique was the vipassana practice, that deep insight into suffering, impermanence, and the breaking of our identification of self that's wrapped around states of suffering. That's the liberation that he spoke about. And so there's this sense of, oh, that's the Vipassana practice, and that's superior to concentration and all concentration practices. And then people have said, oh, well, in concentration practices, you can there's a danger of developing a dependency on the pleasant states, which is, I mean, as I said from the beginning, if there's any degree of craving, that's going to shut the whole party down. So um, I think that's a bit of a contradiction of terms, saying that people might become dependent upon, have craving for. Um, so, in various places in the suttas, Buddha talks about the importance of. He says if the person who knows shamatha should ask the vipassana person, "How do you do that?" The person who knows vipassana should ask the shamatha person, "How do you do that?" It's best to develop them both concurrently, the insight practice as well as the deep concentration practices. When we get our concentration up to par, when we build that concentration muscle, we can have what's referred to as access concentration. That is to say, we sit down on the cushion, bell rings, or whatever, we start our practice, and concentration just turns on and it's there. And we can practice concentration in its own right, work into the jhanas and develop all through the different levels of jhana practice. Or we can apply that concentration to the insight practice. We can apply it to the metta practices of the heart. We can apply it to whatever practice is your jam, whatever it is that you want to do. But there's that concentration power that underlies it, um, the meditation really takes off. And so many other places within the suttas as well, Buddha talks about taking whatever state, eventually working through the identification with that ego state, and then turning it into it ultimately becomes an object of concentration that then leads in and through the jhanas. So um, I just want to put that statement out there of just the importance of sometimes just working that muscle of concentration for its own right. And I think that about does it. All right. I hope this was helpful. Please reach out if you have any questions. Um, let's end with a dedication of merit. By the merits of these acts and other such virtues, may we attain a liberation for the benefit of all beings. We bow before those that come before us, after us, and to those who walk beside us on the path. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you around.